Nish, how do you feel about your privacy, just out of interest, a passing interest?
My privacy is something that I guess I feel pretty strong about, because I've basically, my phone has so many location services disabled that sometimes when I try and order a taxi, it says this service is not available in Brazil, and you're like, have I ended up in Brazil? But my partner was saying, oh, that's what happens when you haven't got any of your location settings.
Wait, does everything default to Brazil? Is that how that works?
I've no idea. All roads lead to Brazil. All roads lead to Rio, Tom.
Yeah,
it's the oldest phrase in tech.
Oh my god. There is probably some nerd who set that up, so that would happen based on that phrase. The VPN is they actually now sell them, don't they? They're probably advertising them in between on this. You've probably already listened to 3 VPN adverts on this podcast alone. But they've sort of become a legit thing, haven't they, the VPN? If they feel like they're legal, and yet it still feels like I'm getting a Region 2 DVD or something when you use a VPN.
That's exactly... Well, that's you and I could not have revealed our age more viscerally in that moment than to go, it's like getting a Region 2 DVD. But it's exactly like that. Because I don't have one, and all of my friends... And occasionally I'll say something like, oh yeah, I haven't seen that show because it's on HBO Max, and we don't have HBO Max in the UK, so we're sort of at the whim of which HBO shows Sky has bought. And people look at me like I've said, I only have a VHS player, and it's Steam powered, so I gotta wait for my Steam guy to deliver a new bag of hot air before I can watch that TV program. Everyone has them, and sort of so there's this like sense of regionlessness to a lot of TV programs.
It's just insane that there's this idea of physical media that you could only play in certain parts of the world, and within very much living memory, not even a decade really. Like, it's changed so quickly.
Yeah. Well, can I tell you that it's very much in living memory in my day-to-day life? Yeah. Because my house looks like... I would say my house looks like a kind of our price in the early 2000s. Even as I sit in front of you, I'm just... this is not something I've set up.
No, lovely.
There's just a load of CDs.
Oh, fabulous.
Just some of the 200 CDs I own.
Yeah.
Not even like... I mean, sure, there's some historic ones in there. There's Bob Dylan.
There he is, Desire.
There's Channel Orange by Frank Ocean. That album came out in 2012.
Yeah, that's quite recent, that's pretty new, that one. Yeah. So you got some fresh beats there as well. It does... I mean, listen, this comes round on the show a lot. The morning of the passing of physical media. I refuse to allow my books to go to the cloud in a sort of... this kind of Valhalla of things getting burnt and sent off. But my CDs, and I do feel like it's a Viking thing. I think we should, when we take our CDs to the charity shop and our DVDs, we should stand there and there should be a bugler or something. You know what I mean? Because you're losing a physical part of your life.
I've done too many podcasts because when you said bugler, I imagined Andy Zaltzman. So I've just done far too many podcasts. But yeah, no, I mean, but. Can I tell you something? I believe physical media is making a comeback.
Interesting. Tell me more, because I agree with you, and I'm encouraged by this.
Well, everyone's buying records now, anyway.
Yes.
So that's something that's becoming more, and also because I think bands actually make money from it, so I think they're very keen for us to buy their records, but also because of. So there's some, like, I have teenage cousins that are buying CDs now because it's part of the like thing where they're like, you shouldn't use your phone before sleep, so they're listening to CDs on Walkmans so that they don't have the blue light thing. But also because there's now this practice of streaming libraries just going, we're just going to dump that TV show. Yeah. People are now buying Blu-rays again.
Oh, fuck's sake! I'm getting rid of stuff. You can tell that's why that's happening, because it's as I start to do something, society does the opposite, and that is so. This is on me, and I take the credit. Honestly, Nish, I've just got rid of fucking loads of stuff. So much. Look
I will say,
there's a bag full of stuff right next to me. Look, that's going. Never even been opened. Look at that. Look at it. This is me. I've done this.
I mean, this is all anecdotal evidence, so it's complete. It's perfectly possible that. I'm talking out of my backside.
Well, I feel like you're an influencer, especially with the teenagers, Nish. I feel like you're a voice they trust. So if you're saying that, we're in trouble.
It's. I do think that. I do think it makes sense that some physical media is making a comeback. I think vinyls are nice. You know, it's like a nice bit of artwork.
Yeah.
I think people like the idea of like but also truly, like friends of mine are in bands, and I remember I went to watch Martha, who are really like cool pop punk band from the northeast, and they sort of have various offshoots, and Nathy SG, who's one of the Marthas, he did a solo gig recently that I was at, and he said, look, if you want to buy our EP, and then he quoted some appalling figure like buying one of the EPs is the equivalent of streaming one of our songs 50,000 times. Like it was some absolutely appalling number. So
that's a great way of putting it. That's so clever.
And I think James Blake gave an interview last week where he was like, people have to pay for stuff. Like you can't just get it all for free. And I think people are coming to that understanding. And also I think you should do the dots of, you know, people keep getting angry about, X. I'm not going to name anyone specifically because I'm trying to upset people less. But people get angry with X person or X band because they went to a private school and aren't they all very posh? Yeah. But again, you're just getting angry with. Ultimately, you're just getting angry with some 20-year-olds. And what you should be angry with is like all of the systemic factors that mean that only posh people can be in the entertainment industry.
But it's quite funny the idea that
is
music
like, you have to pay for stuff.
Music has gone Tory. Even the music. Even the music.
Of course.
God, they're everywhere.
Why wouldn't it happen? Why wouldn't it happen? Because if you have to be independently wealthy in order to participate in any of these things.
Yes, of course. I mean, it's Coldplay. We're just gonna have a load of Coldplays. Coldplay are called Coldplay because they met skiing. That is completely untrue, but I'm gonna push that. So listen, here's what I have to do. Right, this is part of the show now. Is that I'm gonna log into your Amazon.
Okay. Now, that's a bit complicated for me because I don't use Amazon, but I do use a string of different online shopping platforms.
Okay, great. Well, listen, in that case, why don't you, and obviously, any passwords and stuff that you read out to me, I will obviously be editing out, but what do you think could be a good place for us to get a proper look in on the truth behind Nish Kumar?
Well, here's what I would say. I would say if we go to my Waterstones account.
Love that. Oh, yes, please. We've never done
Waterstones and Rough Trade, then you get a real sense of.
Do you use eBay ever?
Yeah, I do, but I don't think I think I've only ever bought things but outside of like as a guest. Okay, there's a lot of side in as guests. When people talk to me about this stuff, it reveals this like weird, like almost like prepper streak in me.
Yeah,
that like it sounds like I'm about to like go off the grid and move to a compound in Virginia. I promise I'm a normal person.
You're the sort of guy. You're the sort of guy who's got. Have you got an emergency bag under your desk, just ready to go at any point?
I don't trust a lot of these people with my data.
I like the idea that you've got an emergency bag full of vinyl. Just endless, lots of copies of the new Yard Act. We'll be fine.
Good album,
mate.
Good album, the new Yard Act album.
I love those guys. Of course I do. What I love about Yard Act is they present as a band for young cool people, and yet loads of Six Music centrist dads listen to them. It's hilarious.
Yeah. I'm on the new Yard Act album.
Yes, I did know. I did drop that name in on purpose.
It would be extremely funny if it was me rapping, but it's not.
Are you going to the gig next week? Because they've got one next Wednesday, haven't they?
I think so, but I don't know yet.
Fine.
I might be working.
Okay, fine.
The Apollo, right? It's
yes.
Gonna be good.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. I fucking love those guys. The new Yard Act album looks amazing. I haven't got into it yet. I've listened to it several times, but I need to properly do, I think, what the kids would probably call a listen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than just listening, I need to give it a noun, a listen.
There's a song called Blackpool Illuminations on it that I think might be the best thing they've done.
Is that the one that you're in?
It's very good. No, actually no.
There's a song
Actually,
called
it's
Nish
not.
Kumar's great.
There's a song called Nish is actually quite a cool guy, everybody. So
Nish observes things and they're funny.
it's not one of their better titles. It's not one of their pithier titles.
Oh, they
I'll
do
say
piff.
this for the Yard
They
Act
piff
boys.
so well. So, Nish, what we've got here is, and we've never done this before, actually. We've actually got your Waterstones, right? So we can see what you've been up to on Waterstones. And I don't know if there's been some sort of mistake, because you bought the comic, hardback. Sorry, it's not a comic, it's a hardback, guys. Hardback.
Yeah.
It's actually...
First of all, bad
Thank
start.
you, yes.
Bad start, 38-year-old man.
Absolutely, go on. So what is it? It's a graphic novel, yeah?
It's a graphic novel.
Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
but it's a bad start for the first thing. The first thing that we're talking about. It's not like any sort of, not some book about politics. It's not even anything. It's not like some useful thing.
Yeah.
It's
how the left can recover.
It's comic books.
What next for the centrist ground? Where do the Tory party go from here? When we hear you on the podcasts, Nish, when we hear you doing your political comedy, full of information. I wonder how much information you get from Gotham City, because you've bought Batman 89 hardback graphic novel, and it costs £22. It's just I'm enjoying the. Is it? Let's play a game of. Is that the sound of a man laughing or crying? I think it's laughter. He's bought it not once, not twice, but 3 times. Three separate occasions you bought the same book. So I guess my first question is, what are you doing to these books?
Can I also tell you? I have a small confession to make. I already owned that book before I started, but purchasing it. I've bought.
Go on.
I've bought 4 copies of that book.
Are you trying to single-handedly prop up the DC empire? Is this your way of pushing back against the Marvel man?
Look, let me explain myself, okay? I actually think, in many ways, if the purpose of the show is to glean some kind of insight into a person.
We're there and we're done. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
By their, yeah. All of this is very telling. So I bought this book because I read about it online because a friend of mine told me about it, and he was like, "So I grew up really loving the Tim Burton Batman films, right? So I was a huge fan of the first one. It's like it's probably one of the first films I can remember seeing on TV, or I think I taped it off the TV. Again, really, I could not be more at the cutting edge of culture here, but and so I really loved it. I had all the Batman toys. Yeah. I actually, and this is again a very revealing anecdote about me. When Batman Returns came out, I was so excited. Then discovered that I couldn't see it because it was a 12, and immediately burst into tears. Thereby, I will say, validating the decision to not let me see Batman Returns.
You were not emotionally strong enough.
Test.
Yeah.
I was not emotionally prepared. I was not emotionally prepared for Michelle Pfeiffer in the skin-tight latex. I wasn't emotionally prepared for
I don't think anyone
I think if you
is ever prepared for that. Imagine the moment she first walked on set. People must have just thought,
nuts.
Absolutely.
Also, that movie is insane.
Yeah.
When you rewatch Batman Returns, it's really good, but it's also deeply strange.
Yeah.
And the Danny DeVito as the Penguin is so viscerally horrible. And what I also really find funny is they sort of copied his hair for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They're sort of giving him the penguin hair again. So I really loved those 2 films, and then I watched Batman Forever and Batman Robin.
Okay.
And
well, hang on.
I didn't realise.
Okay, but why was Batman was your guy? Batman was your number one.
Yeah. Batman was my guy. So, but what I didn't realise is that Sam Hamm, who's the guy who wrote the first 2 films, had written a 3rd film, which Tim Burton was going to direct, and then Warner Brothers was essentially like, we can't keep selling toys if you keep making weird bondage fetish movies. So they then basically pulled the plug on that movie, and then got Joel Schumacher and tried to make more kind of PG kid friendly films. But there was a 3rd script for what would have been a 3rd Tim Burton Batman film. And so a couple of years ago, I think he started he posted bits of the script, and then an artist illustrated them with the characters basically looking like Michael Keaton and Michelle Pfeiffer, and also Billy D. Williams as Two-Face, because Billy D. Williams plays Harvey Dent in the first Batman movie, and he was supposed to come back in the third one, and they just bought out his contract and cast Tommy Lee Jones in Batman Forever.
Right.
And so this comic book is basically what the third film would have been.
It's the lost film. It's the missing film.
So I heard about it. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the missing third Tim Burton film. And so when I heard about it, I was like, man, that's so far up my alley.
Yeah.
So I went and got it at a comic book shop. It was probably just after we came out of lockdown, and loved it. And so then immediately went on, was like, I'm going to order this and send it to my brother. Because my brother and I watched a lot of those Batman films together. We talk about Batman a lot. And so I was like, my brother's going to absolutely love
Did you give him a heads up?
Then,
or did he just suddenly go downstairs one day? Because I like the idea of just appearing at the front door and...
Yeah, he knew. Oh. He knew. I'd already told him about it, so I bought that, sent it to him. Then I remembered, oh, well, if I'm buying it, I should probably buy one for my friend Nikesh, who's the person who told me about this in the first place, because he hadn't read it. He said, I haven't read it. I think it'd be interesting. So I was like... So then, but I didn't have those two thoughts at the same time. So I bought one on Waterstones, ordered it, sent it to my brother. That's the first purchase. Then I remembered that I should get one for Nikesh. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll send that to Nikesh. Then I thought, my friend Inua would really like this. So then I also then bought him a third one.
Unbelievable.
It's absolutely unacceptable. So, like, listen, it tells you a lot about a person. He's generous.
He's a good guy.
He is generous.
But, yes.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
But he's not an effective guy.
No. And there's a lot about... There's the Bruce Wayne Nish Kumar crossover is there. You know what I mean? You need your assistants. You need your entourage. You need your guys.
There's an element of, you know, at its core, there's something very nice at work.
It's sort of a feeder vibe. You know what I mean? And that's what addicts do. They're keen. Come on, mate. Stay for one more. Stay for one more beer. I can't. I've got to get home. No, go on. One more. It's what you're doing. And that's fine. It's a harmless addiction.
But it's sort of he means well. But
are you third personing yourself?
Have any capacity?
Third person? Okay,
I'm just trying to imagine what someone listening to this podcast is thinking. He means well. He's a bit full of himself because he does refer to himself as a third person. But I think ultimately there is a well-meaning guy in there. But he is also, let me be clear, utterly useless.
Did the moments?
Can you imagine?
I mean, I like the idea that you're walking down the street and you go, God, I've got to send him a copy of the comic. So I'll catch you guys up. Sorry, 1 second, and then you're just there on your phone going, deliver to, mate, what's your address? Okay, I've got that done. Do you know, was it like that? Was it just a sudden, like, epiphany? I've got to send the love?
It was like, I'll be frank with you, it was an epiphany, it was a sequential epiphany. So I ordered one for my brother, and I was like, great, send that off. Then I was like, oh, God, I should have ordered one for Nikesh. Send that off. Then I was like, oh, God. I should have ordered one for Inua.
There's something
you're
sort of like
so dumb.
You're sort of like a DC Gideon's vibe. Like you're just going to be putting them. Could we do that if we were to put a book in a hotel room drawer? Would that be what you'd do? What would you?
Yeah, put a Batman comic in. And also like those, like all of the people that I've mentioned, my brother and my friends, are all people that like also buy me stuff. Yes. Sometimes sort of out of nowhere. They, you know, it's just like it's a thing where it's like, oh, if you see something that other, but it's especially like pop culture stuff. Yeah. You know, it's like it's especially sort of pop culture ephemera.
And when you were a fan of this stuff when you were a kid. Was it cool or not cool? I can't really remember. I feel like liking comics and liking Batman was okay, right? Or did it put you in the kind of nerdy gang? Where were you? Where did you sit?
I think that the reality is that liking the comics, the actual comics, was still considered to be somewhat nerdy. But that Tim Burton Batman film was so huge and so ubiquitous that I think kind of everybody was into it. And also we then were, I was sort of an age, so I'm 38, so I was an age where I remember the first wave of comic book films that kind of starts with like the like Spider-Man, X-Men films.
Yeah.
The first
Tobey
one's
Maguire.
the Tobey Maguire.
He was a great Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire.
He was a great Spider-Man. Yeah, he was a great Spider-Man. That's another one. It's another film franchise where the first two are good, and then the third one, Sam Raimi did actually get to make the third one with Tobey Maguire, so it's not perfect. But there was a lot of, I believe there was a lot of studio interference, and the Sam Raimi film that he wanted to make kind of got lost in the shuffle.
Is there often a descent, certainly with those franchises, is there a descent into merchandise? You've really planted that idea in my head earlier on, the idea that the studio go, we need to make more plastic toys, so you have to change the story. Is that often what the motivation is?
I mean, I think that's certainly what it was with those films, because that era of like that era, there was definitely a sense of we need to maximize. Sort of, I don't know. Do people still buy tie-in toys?
Yeah.
I don't have children, so it's not clear.
They do, I cannot. Yeah. Honestly, it's funny you should be a Batman guy, because I wouldn't say my kids are into Batman or superheroes, but there are so many variations on Batman toys. And at one stage, we used to get all the toys out in the bath. And honestly, when they were like 5 or 6, so crucially not 38, but when they were 5 or 6, they would sit in the bath. This isn't permission for you to do this, with like 9 or 10 different iterations of Batman, and you'd almost be able to assign each of the Batmen, the Bat people, to the different directors. That's very Burton, that one. But there were so many. So yeah. But the kids' toys thing is still huge.
So what I would say is, I don't think there was as big a stigma. I think that people. Even now, I would say people actually reading the comics is still, even now that comic book films are a kind of ubiquitous cultural juggernaut, I would still say there's a difference between people who watch the films and actually read the comic books. Yeah. But it certainly wasn't, but by that point, by the kind of late 90s, early 2000s, there were quite a lot of Batman films, and then that segued into the Spider-Man, X-Men films, which then itself segued into the like Christopher Nolan Batman films, which again,
that's when shit got real. For me, that's when shit got real. That's
when it became like kind of they became sort of artistically credible and got nominated for Oscars and stuff. Yeah. And then that kind of started this, and then Marvel, then the first Iron Man came out in 2008, and that sort of began the the period where it felt like every movie was a comic book movie for a period.
That was it, it had a sort of imperial phase, didn't it? All those I wonder if that's done now to an extent. It feels like it is, or it's beginning to wane. I think that's a little.
I think there's just a problem where people have a good idea and everyone goes, "That's a great idea," and so they go, "We'll do more of it," and they go, "This is fantastic," and then they go, "We'll do even more of it," and we go, "This is even better." And then they do so much of it that we go, "My God, this is terrible." And like, I think, I guess it's just at a certain point when things become too profitable to exercise restraint over.
You're describing capitalism. You're describing capitalism.
Yeah,
that's what's happened there.
That's exactly the problem, isn't it? You sort of have a good idea that people are into, and then you have to keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it.
To try and relive the first hit. So it's got a bit of an addiction thing going on as well. You're always trying to get that first buzz. I remember when I got my first Walkman when I was a kid, the tape-playing Walkman. Yeah. And I could even remember the smell of it and the fetishization of all the wires and stuff. And I'm still hunting for that moment. And no tech is ever going to love me like that Walkman did. It's true.
It is like, yeah, I guess people are jonesing for their first hit, but it is with film franchise stuff, is if you leave it just a couple of years, people will be excited to watch these things again. It's like the gap between the George Clooney Batman and the first Christian Bale Batman is not enormous. It's like the late 90s to 2005. And so it's not like you have to wait forever for these things, but if you just let people have give people a bit of a rotation.
Well, the Greeks had it, mate, when the Greeks did their 4 years between the Olympics, famously, which was their idea.
That, you know what? As with a lot of stuff, the Greeks were ahead of the game.
Smashed it.
If the Olympics if we'd come up with the Olympics now, there'd be an Olympics every year.
It would have been like Bake Off or X Factor. We'd have had it every year, and after 7 years, we'd have gone, oh, mate, send it to commercial TV. Stick it on Dave. I'm not into it now. It's dead to me. Okay, all right, good. So that's Batman, and I'm getting a vision of you as a kid. So like the nerdy thing. So you're not the nerdy weirdo. You're quite a happy-go-lucky kid. This all seems okay, yes? Or is that if I just very much pasted over some large cracks there? But I'm sort of extrapolating a lot there.
No, I mean, listen, I was talking to my cousin actually over the weekend about being. Certainly at my age, 40 is imminent,
It is.
and it is an age where people start thinking, oh, I don't really feel like I'm relevant or I know what's cool anymore. And I actually started thinking that myself. I was like, oh man, I don't. And then I had a word. I was saying to my cousin, I had to have a bit of a word with myself and go, you never knew what was cool.
Yeah.
You never knew what was relevant when you were 15 years old. People were trying to have a conversation with you about garage music, and you were trying to extol the virtues of Electric Ladyland by Jimi Hendrix. Yeah. There's no sense that you know what's
You were the
cool.
weirdo then. Be the weirdo now, culturally and personality-wise. Always be the weirdo. That's the only way to do it. It's perfect.
When I was a kid, the music that I was into, I used to talk to my friends' dads about it.
Yeah.
Because they were the only ones who wanted to talk about Lou Reed.
I mean, that's just hilarious. Like, Gary, can I come over your house on Saturday? Yeah, mate, it'd be great to see you. Yeah, is your dad in? Just...
Yeah, I did have friends that were also into that, sort of sat in that slightly out of time space. But I was saying to my cousin, it is amazing that even I, who was never relevant, am now worried about losing something that I never had. And there were occasional moments where my interests would converge with the zeitgeist. But it was transitory, just that 1 year where people were also into Outkast. You're like, okay, fine. That's fine. On the subject of Outkast, this was actually a present from one of the men I bought the Batman figure to. I've got two Outkast action figures.
This is incredible.
That sit either side. Of my on either side of my desk.
Wow! This is like a cultural swap shop that you've got going on. I love it. Yeah, fucking brilliant. I'm sat in amongst. Also, this was an eBay purchase. Oh, great!
It's the episode guide for the first 9 series of The Simpsons.
Yes, before it goes bad.
That was my favourite book when I was a child.
Okay. There's a sort of desk version of My Mate Bought a Toaster we should really be doing, especially with your absolute clutter. I mean, you say it's like a franchise of our price. I'm getting strong Red Cross vibes at the moment. There's real, not even the front room, the back room of a charity shop. That's what I'm seeing at the moment.
I actually can't open this because it's too large and it will collapse. But in this envelope is another eBay purchase of mine, and it's a poster for cinemas for the 1978 release of Richard Pryor's Live in Concert.
Well, I mean. But that's cool. That's because that's comedy. That's what you do. And Richard Pryor's an icon. That's all okay. That's allowable. Let's discuss the next thing that I've got, because we have got some of your eBay purchases here as well, which you've very kindly shared with the class. And I couldn't be more excited about this one because I love this band. You have bought, fucking hell, REM Automatic for the People. The, I guess, original vinyl from 1992 for, and this is an important part here, £125.
Correct.
Okay. Where do you want to...
And what have I also bought?
Also bought, let's have a look down and see what else Nish has got, because, of course, variety is an important part of a curious mind.
Yeah.
You've also bought REM Automatic for the People, original 1992 LP first. Yeah, it's the same. You bought...
100%. Same price.
£114.99, that one.
114.99. Yeah. Let me tell you what's happened there. This is now the reverse of this is a reverse generosity. I bought that for James Acaster's birthday. I bought him because he loves REM, and we talk a lot about. We love REM.
Can I be in your
we talk
REM
a lot
gang? Because I love REM.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's what your gang needs.
Oh. we talk a lot about our favorite REM albums, uh, and so for his birthday, he's a very good gift giver. I'm surrounded by a lot of good gift givers in my life. You know, a lot of my friends are very good gift givers. You've seen the Outcast action figures. That's a great gift from Nikesh. Acast is a very thoughtful gift giver. And my partner is like treats gift giving. It's like a competitive sport. Right. Like the gifts will be so specific and precise and configured to your interests. And I come from a family where we just get a 20 quid note and jam it in a card and then give it to you on your birthday.
And you open the card. So, you don't even read what's inside the card. You just shake the card once.
No.
Yeah. It's basically a cash machine.
Straight to HMV. Yeah. So I've had to like learn how to, you know, be a kind of person who like thinks very carefully about what presents they're buying for people. That's just... Ed Gamble's a very good gift giver. There's a lot of good gift givers around me in my immediate orbit. So I've had to like learn and really work hard. So this year I had the idea of, okay, I'm gonna find on eBay first pressing 1992 Automatic for the People. Get on there, found it, mint condition, perfect, buy it. What's my first thought after that?
I need to get one.
I want one of
those. Myself. Yeah.
Immediately. But it's the reverse.
Yeah. So before it even arrives, did you go, I want one, or did you arrive and you were like, oh, I might keep this?
What do you mean before it even arrived? Right. This is the hour after. This is an hour.
I did a
after.
similar thing.
I
bought my best friend a signed copy of it's like a gold disc of Flood by They Might Be Giants, which is my favourite album of all time. Yeah. That's just that's Lovely. Where I need my brain to live in that album, basically. And I bought it for him and instantly saw it. He unwrapped it at his house. And it was the second time I'd seen it, because obviously I wrapped it up. But watching him unwrap it, I was like, yeah, I'm going to get one of those. Straight away. I was like, I'll just take it. But that's an interesting thing as well, actually, because that's the fact that Ed and I always listen to Flood and They Might Be Giants. We talk about it all the time. Often we'll text each other if we're having a good Flood session. Do you have that with Acast? Do you do a thing where you'll be like, oh, mate, I'm absolutely smashing Automatic for the People's back doors in right now? Is there a moment?
Yeah, all the time. And, you know, like, also, if I got a first pressing of Murmur, but I from a secondhand record shop in Manchester, I think, and it's and also you're in constant dialogue about which one the best album is. I mean, I think my favourite is Automatic for the People, but I also one of the things we both love is New Adventures in Hi-Fi, which is the album after Monster that they kind of recorded in like a lot of stadium sound checks, and so it has this kind of like really like echoey sort of empty sound that it actually works really well for the songs.
They're such a great band. I love REM, and it breaks my heart that they're broken up. Did you see on Michael Stipe's Insta the other day? They did a little gig. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, it would be incredible for them to do a comeback.
They will surely. Daddy Cash comes calling.
I'm sure they will.
Mate.
I'm sure they will. But the only thing is, I don't know with that generation of musicians, only because that was the last generation of musicians, maybe not the last, but maybe the last but one generation of musicians that actually made money from selling loads of albums. So I wonder with that generation whether there will be. And also, I mean, I don't know. I'm only piecing this together from interviews. It doesn't feel like they're the kind of band that spent it all on drugs, basically. No. Like a lot of those 60s bands, I think, 60s and 70s bands, maybe even into the 80s a little bit, had to keep touring because they all signed terrible record contracts that, ripped them off. And even in like the 3.5 years Jimi Hendrix was recording, he signed 2 terrible deals, or 1 terrible deal that caused him to have to do a whole load of more touring than he was already doing, even in that sort of short span of time. But I wonder if there's like that generation of musicians in the kind of 80s and 90s that maybe did sort of make enough make enough money.
Is that why you're touring
and also
so much
then
as a stand-up? Just to try and pay off terrible deals.
blew it all on cocaine, baby.
No, you didn't. You blew it all on multiple copies of Batman '89. That's where it all went.
I've never taken cocaine.
I don't need to.
I blew it all on buying 4 copies of Batman '89 and 2 copies of Automatic for the People.
Why would you need narcotics? Why would you possibly want that? It's amazing. Do you ever use? I find REM sneak up on me sometimes, and I'll hear a song and go, "Holy." I don't know why. I think it's because I remember listening to I think it's Automatic for the People. What's the one with Sidewinder Sleeps Tonight and that is
Automatic for the People.
I remember listening to that at school again and again. And again, because of physical media, I had that one CD, so it was on a loop. And the ability, obviously, to take you back to a certain time, but also to creatively. So, like, do you ever use it for gigs and stuff? Do you have it as walking on music? Do you know what I mean? Because it tunes into that creative side of you as well.
How the West Was Won and Where It Got Us, which is the first song from New Adventures in Hi-Fi, was the first song on the playlist of my 2015 Edinburgh show and tour. And I think there was no grand reason for it other than I was listening to that song a lot, and so it just then got shoved on at the very beginning, and I sort of just like the feel of it. I think with REM, there's a sort of conventional wisdom that you know, after Bill Berry leaves, the band is not as good, and there's a conventional wisdom, I think, that like they have all the kind of first decade of indie albums, and then they do these 2 monster albums, ironically not Monster, the 2 immediately before Monster, Out of Time and Automatic for the People, and then there's a kind of sort of slow descent. But I think New Adventures in Hi-Fi is amazing. Acaster, I think, one day will do a 6-part documentary series explaining why Up is actually a brilliant album. He's an absolute Up defender.
Okay.
But also there are still loose songs, and the reason that I think some of the post sort of 92 REM era is being reevaluated is because of The Bear.
My God, The Bear! I sit there and my wife has
they love REM.
God, my wife has no knowledge of 90s indie pain, right? And that is basically 4/5 of my personality. Okay, and we're watching The Bear, and these songs come on, and I just go, "Holy shit! You've literally taken a poker and put it straight to the middle of my soul. It's incredible. I totally hadn't." Yes.
The second series of The Bear uses strange currencies from Monster as kind of a motif for one of the characters, and there's a song called "Oh My Heart," which I think is from Collapse Into Now, which is again like one of their much later albums. And
because I had to Google it. I had to do
that's
it.
an album that I've heard. That's an album that I'd heard. Didn't really care for it, and then in The Bear, when that song comes on, you're like, who's this band?
That's what I did. I went, well, this is REM, and Beth's like, sorry, can we just
you're absolutely right. I would say with REM, Michael Stipe's voice is so distinctive.
Yeah.
There's like half a second of who this band, and then there's immediately, well, it's obviously REM. So I do think there is some interesting revision going of later REM, and you wonder whether sometimes with bands like that, or even like a TV show that goes for however many series, when people say this series, it's shit from series 5 onwards or 6 onwards, what we actually mean is it's just not as good, but actually it's still pretty good. And I wonder if that's true of REM. You're like, they're actually still pretty good.
It's interesting.
They're just not anywhere near.
It's as close as you're going to get to hearing it in a vacuum, isn't it? To hearing it with absolutely no knowledge and just going, "Well, this band fits me perfectly." Oh, and it happens to be one of my favourite bands.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. What's your favourite REM album?
I would. I'm going to go full Partridge. The best of REM one. No. I think Automatic for the People, because it was that CD that I played again and again. But then also at uni.
Yeah.
I listened to the one off the back of the Andy Kaufman stuff. So I'm pushing an aeroplane up a hill. All those songs. Is that Reveal? I want to say Reveal. I think it is Reveal. This is revealing my.
Yeah, I think so. The Great Beyond.
Yeah, The Great Beyond.
I think it's. There's. Reveal has Imitation of Life. Reveal, the opening track of Reveal has a song called The Lifting on it, which is again.
Yeah,
amazing.
it's Reveal. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I love that one.
But it, I, in my sort of like late teenage kind of proto high fidelity music obsession, I did used to buy, like, I would get like the best 100 albums of all time and systematically work my way through all of them. And that's actually
get them, just literally buy them.
And that's how I ended up with Automatic for the People. Yeah, that's what I spent all my money on. And like birthday, everything was just movie tickets and CDs. And so and I got Automatic for the People, and I really loved it. Thought it was great. And then years later, I was reading an article about. It must have been coming up for a reissue. I know when it would have been. It would have been 2015. Yeah. I was reading about it, and there was a whole thing about how they had all turned 30, and so I know it was 2015 because that was the year I turned 30. So I was like, oh, you know what? I let me go back and listen, and I heard it in a completely new way.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's it's just wanting to appear intelligent, so tricking yourself emotionally and being like, I
really get this, and you don't understand
in a new way.
Not a bit of it.
But something about songs like Sweetness Follows and Night Swimming. If you listen to Night Swimming when you're 16, you don't really understand nostalgia because your life is sort of still happening to you. But once you get to 30, you have enough years to reflect on with a certain sense of nostalgia. Yeah.
Then you can basically.
But there's still an innocence.
What you're saying is, once you get to 30, you can really dig into real sadness. You try it out as a teenager.
Yeah.
You try and wear it, but it doesn't work. But then it really fits. Post 30, it really.
No, you've racked up. By the time you've hit 30, you've racked up a few more mistakes to reflect on.
Listen, Nish, I'm gonna have to knock this on the head because I've got to shoot off, which is disappointing because I love this and I could keep talking for hours. But. This hasn't been. I would say this has not been a straightforward episode of My Mate Bought a Toaster. But I would have expected nothing less, to be honest.
I apologise, and I can only hold myself responsible.
I think anything abnormal is better. This has been excellent, and we've learned about what a generous gift giver and gift receiver you are,
and self gift giver. We didn't even get to the fact that I've bought 2 copies of Maps by Billy Woods and Kenny Segal.
There's more stuff here as well. We've got no time. I've literally got to walk out the room in 2 minutes' time. Listen, Nish, you are on tour. So it's an autumn tour in 2024, right? But tickets, are they available now, this second?
Tickets available now at nishkumar.co.uk.
Okay, great. And it's mainly about really happy, positive things, right? Because the show is called Nish, Don't Kill My Vibe. That's love
Nish,
that.
Don't Kill My Vibe. I'm a huge fan of Kendrick Lamar and a huge fan of fouling the atmosphere at an otherwise pleasant dinner party.
Oh, it's
with my politics.
Just good. Don't do politics here. No, do politics here, and then walk away with no remorse whatsoever. It's perfect.
When people say the 2 things that I'm supposed to talk about are politics and religion, you're like, what's left?
Yes.
What's left apart from cinema and music? There's nothing else left.
Yeah,
there's only.
I completely agree, and I always regret it. My mother-in-law is absolutely rabidly left-wing, like insanely left-wing, and my wife's always like, "Don't," and I'm like, "No, I'm a centrist dad. I've got to talk to her about power at any cost. That's what we need." And Keir Starmer's got some great ideas. Please don't talk to her about it. 6 hours later, I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't have talked to her about that. That has really ruined our New Year's Eve in the Cotswolds." Listen, Nish, I think you're brilliant. Thank you so much for coming up. My Mate Bought a Toaster. Next time, if you could buy 2,000 or 3,000 things off Amazon over a 10-year period, yeah, so we'll line that up. So if you. Great,
That's
set
perfect.
up the account today because Amazon are the good guys, and get buying some stuff and come on in again.
It's My Mate Bought a Toaster. Oh, it's My Mate Bought a Toaster. Yeah, My Mate Bought a Toaster. Oh, toaster for my Lord.